Welcome to the 15th season of the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Our panel includes Neil Riddell of the Altoona Mirror, Mark Brennan of FightOnState.com, Casey Kantz of WTAJ Sports, and a special guest analyst each week. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells and Reed, orthodontics for children and adults. By the bookstore in the Park Hills Plaza, featuring the area's most complete selection of books, DVDs, magazines, and collectibles. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental. By Pacifico's Bakery, genuine Italian bread and rolls for your tailgating needs. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. Your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By J&P Auto, home of the $1,000 push, pull, or tow. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By McMullen Furniture, the friendly store with quality furniture at a reasonable price. By Scotch Valley Country Club, the area's premier golf destination. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State game day every Friday. You can also see the NitWits on AltoonaMirror.com.
A good evening to you. Welcome to another edition of the NitWits. Mark Brennan of FightOnState.com, Neil Riddell of the Altoona Mirror, as always, joining us, and a special guest tonight, the great Lou Prado in the house for this edition of the NitWits.
Last week we had the greatest ambassador that Penn State ever had in our revolving chair with Fran Fisher, and tonight we have the greatest historian that Penn State has ever had. Lou has chronicled the history of Penn State football. He's written 4 books. He was the curator of the museum when it opened. And Lou, good to have you here. Now you're a nitwit. So
and now I'm a nitwit. Well,
I don't know where this ranks on your honor.
Carol's always called him a nitwit, but now this makes it official.
Thank you for having me. And I said this is a pretty big seat to fill because obviously Irwin was getting weight on. I mean, something, because my God, I could float in.
We're going to have Keith. That's perfect because we're going to have Keith Conlon next week.
Oh, boy. You made 2 chairs then, I think. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad we're in a light mood because that was a tough game.
Boy, was it ever. I'm sure everybody at home watched it. 17-16, Penn State on the short end once again at Virginia on Saturday. And we all agreed, I think, out of the Penn State transfers of this offseason, that among them all, Anthony Farrow would probably be the biggest one, and did we not see that on Saturday in a big way?
You know, Casey, I thought Anthony Farrow would hurt because of the job he did punting. I really thought Ficken was going to be okay. The kid has leg strength. That, to me, that was one of those games that you watch, and it was all in the kid's head.
Yes.
I mean, you could just see it, and after he kept missing, the body language was just terrible, and his teammates were trying to pick him up, and it comes down to that potential game winner. And, you know, he misses it. And, you know, you try to be objective in this business, but your heart kind of went out to him. And then seeing him kind of walk up the tunnel had to be tough. You have to wonder, I think it's fair to ask, can a kid bounce back from this kind of performance?
And Neil, isn't that – I'm glad Mark brought up the part of just being in your head, because I think after you miss one, it is what it is. You miss 2, then that third one all of a sudden you're saying to yourself, oh, boy. It's almost like a goalie in hockey or a closer in baseball maybe, where you just feel like you're out on an island.
Well, he made the 32-yarder
sure, he did.
to take some momentum into that kick, but there wasn't a sense that he was going to make it. And, you know, you look back, Penn State has always been blessed with really good kicking and an emphasis on special teams. You know, I look back, I was trying to find out when was the last time they had a kicker that missed 4 field goals. And, you know, they've had some pretty good kickers that had bad days, but this kid's career is just getting started. So
I don't even know if you'll find that in Lou's encyclopedia.
Well, I couldn't remember. He was telling me earlier, but I tell you, there was one of our great field goal kickers missed a field goal with 40 till the end of the game, 43-yard field goal in the rain at Beaver Field, at Beaver Stadium, 7-6 the last time we played Navy. That was Chris Barr. So they all miss it. But here's my thoughts on Ficken. I empathize with the kid. I guess I feel like maybe Frank Rocco felt about his grandson. That wasn't my grandson, but I have a grandson that old. I'm thinking, what if that's your grandson?
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't think I was sitting in the stands, and among the Penn State people, and they were grumbling about a field goal kicker, but they really weren't being mean. Okay, what they were talking about is, should we go to the soccer team? You know, like we did with Chris and Matt Barr. And I don't think they got to work it out. It's just too bad.
You do.
Well, it does raise a question, though. I mean, what do you do? I mean, how do you, he does have a strong leg. Do you stick with him? Do you go back to Lewis? I mean, the kid is on scholarship, and obviously they don't have the scholarship surplus.
And that's where I
think
think
that's,
I mean, I think that they have to stick with this kid. Listen, there was not going to be a postseason anyway, and I think it's pretty clear that they're going to struggle this season. To what extent, who knows? My 8-4 pick, I think, was a lot ambitious. Why not stick with the kid for a couple weeks, see what he's able to do? Is he able to kind of pull out of this? Give him a shot, and if not, then maybe you do try to go back to an Evan Lewis, or I don't know what you do, but they're in a tight spot here.
Well, if they're go ahead, Lou.
Well, the other thing there is that we talk about missing Farrah, but
Butterworth,
yeah.
Why is the coach going fourth down a lot of times? Because he doesn't have the punter that could put him in the hole, back him up too. The one good punt that he got away was into the end zone.
We've seen that the first 2 weeks from Butterworth, a shanked one and a couple short ones yesterday. As many field goals as were missed yesterday by Ficken, there was some good news because the Penn State defense forced that many turnovers, 4 of those. And unfortunately, the Penn State offense kind of stalled a bit and had some ample opportunities to cash in, but they didn't. But the defense, other than the game-winning drive, I guess, the turnovers were a bright spot.
I thought, in general, the team played better this week than they did. I thought they played harder with a lot more intensity, and the defense played really tremendous. Now, they are having trouble on third down. They're having trouble getting off the field still.
Yeah.
But I thought that they deserved a better fate.
In the second half against Ohio, Penn State looked spent to me. And I believe Bill O'Brien, when he said after this game that he thought they emptied their gas tank in a good way, left it all out there on the field. The effort was most certainly there. I don't think anybody could fault that. And if you go back and look at the two, they gave up a 3rd and 20 and then a key 3rd and 16. And if you go back and really look at that, those are guys who have not played a lot of football making some mistakes. And it's part of the growing pains.
I really liked on your website, you had that frame by frame
of the 3rd and 16.
Of the 3rd and 16, and you pointed out, and that's so clear of what happened. It's, my God. I hope that the coach looked at that.
Well, yeah, they look at film. Of course they do. And that's where you hope that they're able to learn from those things. But having said that, listen, you can't miss 4 or 5 field goals and have an extra point blocked. You just can't. No matter what happened in the rest of the game, that absolutely can't.
Come back to that defense, Mothy.
What a game!
What a great. Yeah. If he isn't eventually an All-American, he only has by someone this year.
Even a one-on-one stop on the punt.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with that. Virginia, I thought, played very average, if not a bad game.
I'd say bad.
And gave Penn State every opportunity, and I think, just looking at the tape today before we came over, Penn State got almost every call. They had so many opportunities. I know there were a couple glitches with the clock, but wow, there were some calls that they got that were strange, and there were some calls that weren't made that Virginia had a case on, I thought.
Mark, how about this? We're through one block with Lou, and he's already promoting your website.
Thank you. Thanks, Lou. He knows where
I work for him sometimes.
Hey, we are just getting started on this edition of the NitWits. When we come back, Neil just alluded to it, Penn State missing on a number of prime chances on Saturday. We'll talk about some of those next.
The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells and Reed, orthodontics for children and adults. By the bookstore in the Park Hills Plaza, featuring the area's most complete selection of books, DVDs, magazines, and collectibles. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental.
I'm Gerald Hodges from Penn State Nittany Lions. You're watching the NitWits.
Appreciate that, Gerald. Welcome back. Penn State 0-2 for the first time since 2001 after Saturday's tough 17-16 setback at Virginia. And if you watched that game, which I'm sure you did, you saw that Cavalier team on countless occasions, and we talked about this a little bit in the first block, just try to hand it to Penn State almost. You had Mike London even at one point switching out his quarterback, which I think we were all scratching our head about. You saw Allen Robinson dropped a couple key passes that would have been a touchdown late in the second quarter. You had the blocked extra point. I guess we find ourselves in a one-point loss like that, maybe analyzing things a little bit more, but you have to when situations present themselves like they did on
Bill
Saturday.
O'Brien's been pretty tough on himself consecutive weeks. Not this tough this game as the Ohio game, but he's questioned. He said he's had to call plays better. And I think this is all part of the growing process, all the things he's been called upon to manage, and yet, he's doing all the play calling, because I thought once they got these turnovers, they really went to the running game on first and second down at least 3 times from the 20, and I thought maybe they'd throw the ball in the end zone and take a couple shots.
Well, Casey mentioned Allen Robinson dropping a pass that he should have caught, but at the same time, this is a guy who caught 10 balls, is having, by all accounts, a great year, and you have to remember this is really his first year as he played last year, but barely did anything. And my point with some of these younger guys is they have to have that margin of error. Okay, he's going to drop balls here and there because that's part of the learning process, and you hope that it comes along. But overall, I think offensively, listen, when the game was on the line, they marched it straight down the field and gave themselves an opportunity. I'm not going to keep harping on the kicking, but there were things with the offense that, to me, in key situations, looked a lot better this week than they did the previous week.
But the grumbling in the stands around that thing was, are we seeing Joe Patrona's offense again? Because they seem to run a little bit more. Now, we know that it was about even, right? And O'Brien said last week he's probably needed to run more. Maybe psychologically himself he ran a little too much because the offense didn't seem to be surprising. There wasn't a surprise play. But I want to say something about McGowan. When he got hit, I watched it. I could see it, but that second time he just ran off the field. I swore he wasn't going to come back. It looked like a shoulder separation. Whatever they gave him at halftime, I guess we haven't found out yet. But I mean, there's no matter what you think of him, he's one tough kid and he's a good kid, and he is the best we have. And I'm just, you don't want to switch this yet, but what happened to Paul Jones? We now know he's going to be a tight end. What happened? I mean, anybody in the
Great
question.
question.
Well, I think what happened is a guy like Steve Bench comes in. He's the son of a coach. He's been around football his whole life. He's just a more natural quarterback.
Jones is the son of a coach.
I think you have a guy like Paul Jones who's 6'3", almost 260 pounds. And they want to find a way to get him out there on the field. And O'Brien said afterward that they think they could use him at that F tight end spot. So rather than have him sitting on the bench, and it's clear that Stephen Bench is more comfortable in this system, making all the reads, doing all these different things than Paul Jones is.
And he accounted himself, I thought, very well for a true freshman on the road. They did balance out the offense, and I'm thinking maybe Bill O'Brien feels that if he would continue to pass, you saw the defense wear down at the end of this game, that he has to keep the defense more fresh than he was able to against Ohio. That might have been one of the reasons that they chose to run as often as they did.
Yeah, one quick point on P.J. Jones, on Paul Jones. How about let's credit this kid for doing what he can do to help the team. That cannot be easy.
Great
he came
attitude.
in here as a highly touted guy, and they asked him to do something different, and he's like, you know what, how can I help?
Yeah.
And you know what, congratulations to Paul Jones for being willing to do that. They're going to need a lot of people to do a lot of different things with these reduced scholarship limits, scholarship numbers, and to see somebody like that step up and do it, I think bodes well.
I'd like to ask you two guys who cover this on a regular basis. You're more the play people. They don't seem to be throwing any screen passes. I mean, am I right? I mean, the bubble screen maybe, but the old-time screen pass. I think the one, and I think there was one in this game. Am I seeing something there?
Well, they threw the throw back today. They also brought Robinson on a kind of a weird pattern that became a bit of a screen pass. I like what I see from the offense generally, how decisive they are. They ran the fake punt. They ran the flea flicker. I mean, I'm enjoying watching them coach so far, but maybe the screen.
The screen game could be, Belton was a big part of that, and him not being in there, I think, may have hurt them.
Due for another break when we come back. Back-to-back tough losses, of course, to start the Bill O'Brien era in Happy Valley. How will this team handle it? They seem to be sticking together from our vantage point. We'll discuss a little more in depth next.
The NitWits are brought to you by Pacifico's Bakery, genuine Italian bread and rolls for your tailgating needs. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. By your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By J&P Auto, home of the $1,000 push, pull, or tow. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal.
The NitWits, a weekly look at the Nittany Lions.
We just got to go back to work on Monday, and we got to keep working hard. And these kids left it all out there today, no question about it. I just really appreciate their effort, and we'll break through.
It'll click, when it happens, it'll happen. We just, right now we got to find a way. We got to fight through this, and we've overcome so much in the past already that this isn't even, this is nothing compared to what we've been through. So.
Hey, down in front.
Whose head was that in the middle of the shot?
Getting to be look like me here.
It's a good thing they weren't behind me. They wouldn't have seen anything.
on a lighter note, I guess. But you're hearing it right there. These guys do seem to be sticking together. Two tough losses, really tough losses to open the season.
Yeah, I thought after the Ohio, especially with Bill, I thought that he was really down. And, it would have been great to see them get their first win for him at home. But I didn't think this game, even though it was ended so dramatically and disappointing, I thought they were all pretty upbeat.
Yeah, in the tunnel after the game, some guys were pretty riled up, but you would expect that. That's the way it ought to be. And I won't say what they said because I think that's kind of probably some of it shouldn't be repeated. But I think by the time they had an opportunity to meet with us, I think everybody realized that the one real disaster would have been going down there and getting blown out. Given everything that's happened, and they didn't. They went out there and competed in listen, it's still about wins and losses for this team, and they want to win games, but it's kind of a growing process, and let's see how they're able to continue that going into a couple games that I think they ought to win.
And Lou, go ahead.
They have some good leaders.
Yeah.
The two strongest leaders are out front, of course, are Marty and
Zordich.
And Zort and Michael. But the way he's put the captains, both games, it's going to be interesting to see who's next captain. But they're leaders out there, and I think that helps the team. They've got a lot of unity, and even when O'Brien, it could go like that if you're not careful, and maybe that's why O'Brien didn't have the media meet with Ficken. Maybe he's sensitive to that.
Well, I don't think anyone would have put Ficken in that situation.
No,
certainly Joe wouldn't have done
at the
that
pro level.
either.
They would, but there, I don't think it makes.
Do you think also, there were some good things to take away from that game on Saturday, which maybe these guys, it's clicking, hey, we just went on the road and played a pretty good ball
defense.
game.
We're getting a feel for Ted Roof and the kind of style that he has, and everybody says, well, they're doing a lot more man and they want more aggression and blitzing. Well, one of the key blitzes that they did go after Rocco, they dumped that screen and they ran it down to the 6. With about a minute and a half to play. But I thought the defense took a major step in the right direction. And, you talk about spokesmen and how these guys are handled. This season really is about adversity and leadership as far as I'm concerned.
Well, now you're looking at a couple game swing here where you have Navy, Temple, then you go out to Illinois. I think they'll be motivated for that Illinois game. I don't know about you guys. And, maybe this is a chance. And this isn't dogging Navy because they've given teams tough games. And, Temple had a tough one against Maryland this week, but they're a lot better than they used to be. But I think these are winnable games. And if you get some momentum going into the Big Ten, I think you can turn some of this negative into a positive.
But I think injuries still are good.
Absolutely.
They're losing them. They're like flies, so to speak. Or just, we were talking for the commercial about Dukes getting more running time. If he gets hurt, what happens? Bearing the red shirt of the freshman, but they may run out of bodies.
Some of this is out of necessity, but I like the fact that they really seem to be playing a lot of people, even plugging in offensive linemen, getting guys a little bit more experience than maybe we've seen.
Remember, if he doesn't play them, they can leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you know what, Lou? He's not using that. He could have easily done that with Lynch and with Geno Lewis, and he's not. He brought those guys on the trip as emergency backups, but he's also staying true to trying to build this program and hoping to redshirt these kids.
Even if he does play them, they could leave.
All right, Mark mentioned Navy's up next. We'll talk about that game. And as always, we got our your picks, our picks, the panel's picks. They're next.
The Nitwits are brought to you by the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By McMullen Furniture, the friendly store with quality furniture at a reasonable price. By Scotch Valley Country Club, the area's premier golf destination. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State game day every Friday.
I'm Malcolm Willis from the Penn State Nittany Lions, and you're watching the Nitwits.
All righty, guys, Navy up next. Time for our picks, our Nitwit of the Week.
Okay,
Going first.
I know I got to go quick. Navy had a week off. I'm going to say Penn State bounces back strong. 24, Navy 10. Probably maybe 1 field goal, not 8.
I'm going to go Penn State 27-17, 9 Sam Ficken field goals. Let's hope the kid bounces back a little bit.
Well, my pick was 24-10. I think I'll now go 28-10 to get a little bit higher. Lou, you're up next.
Well, I only talk with my hands, so I'll go with Penn State up and beat the point spread, whatever it is. I don't know what the score is going to be.
You have Penn State winning, though.
I have Penn State winning. I'm a homer.
That's fine.
You don't want to you got to make a pick?
35-14.
Thank you,
How
Lou.
about that? Why
Thank
don't we
you for
do that?
Your cooperation is appreciated.
And I speak for all of us, Lou. Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We hope to see you again soon. That does it for this week's edition of the Nitwits. We'll see you after the Navy game. Have a good night, everybody.
The Nitwits have been brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells and Reed, orthodontics for children and adults. By the bookstore in the Park Hills Plaza, featuring the area's most complete selection of books, DVDs, magazines, and collectibles. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental. By Pacifico's Bakery, genuine Italian bread and rolls for your tailgating needs. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. By your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By J&P Auto, home of the $1,000 push, pull, or tow. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By McMullen Furniture, the friendly store with quality furniture at a reasonable price. By Scotch Valley Country Club, the area's premier golf destination. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State game day every Friday. You can also see the Nitwits on AltoonaMirror.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.